There
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I just won't put that one in. But that would be me. But no, she's fastidious. She's like, oh, hey, one of your Cheetos.
You still haven't got the ants, they're everywhere.
I know,
Ants?
yeah, they're
Oh.
everywhere in here.
I haven't seen any yet.
I all the time.
I hope they're not fighters.
You made me do it in 10 minutes.
All right, it is 6 p.m. We call the meeting to order. Open the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My report, pretty brief. We just had an airport board meeting before this, and you've noticed the hangar is in the new T hangar is in process over there, and we did discuss the fly-in, which is scheduled for August 9th. It's still on so far, and we're just kind of keeping an eye and ear on what's going on to see what happens there. And that is basically my report. Councilmember LeBeau.
We had a library board meeting, and that is it for me.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Hertzberg.
We had the equalization meeting, and I believe that was it.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Rankin.
We had our Board of Equalization, there was an EDAP meeting, and that was it for me.
All right, we got one thing from EDAP on here that's interesting.
Yep.
All right. Councilmember Gilmore. EDAP. All right, thank you very much. And we do have a couple department head reports. Liquor store, Mr. Ludwig.
Yes.
Oh, way over there. Okay. The door guard.
Sales remain strong. You can see in your council packet our numbers through March. Was working with the numbers through April. We were 44% up in March. April's about 41%. So we're trending to be about 26% up year to date. In August, I'll get really excited because we don't know what the summer's going to bring. So we're happy with the way things are trending. Customer counts are good. Our margins are good. Product is fun to get sometimes as they're running out of stock because they weren't geared up for this much business. So there's been a lot of articles written out there about the liquor business. So right now we just keep doing what we're doing. I want to tell everybody that customers can call in and place an order. We've been doing that a lot. You call in, back to the door, you have to check in the trunk, they check the product in the door, they can go without coming inside. So we've had a lot of people taking advantage of that. Just want to pass that on. We're monitoring our hours. Currently we're running 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. As what a lot of our competitors are doing, but as summer gets here closer to fishing opener, we might extend that last hour, and we'll make an announcement with that. Last Friday, Mayor Thompson and I met with the Painesville Liberia group and stuffed a car completely full of shoes. That is on a container ship, hopefully soon, I think, to go over to Liberia. So I want to thank everybody that participated. We had several cities through our association that donated shoes, and a lot of our customers and patrons of Painesville donated shoes. I would say it was almost a pickup full level of shoes we put in their vehicle. So it was a great fundraiser. And we're going to be doing a fundraiser with MMBA again for the Hawk Creek Animal Shelter. There'll be more information coming out. Watch your Facebook. Should be a good deal. So we're going to start doing that first May. So anyway, that's what I got.
Okay, thank you. Did you make the Tribune?
Don't know yet. It's they interviewed about 6 of us, I believe. So
Okay.
yeah, still waiting.
Yep, the shoes are done. We wanted to do a kind of a day-long, invite people for some special events, but the way it worked out, with the social distancing and the group gathering, that didn't work out that way, and they have a container leaving end of this week. So they just came and picked them up, and away they went. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Bill? If not, Chief Wagner.
Thank you. So we continue, like I mentioned earlier, a month or so ago, The new guys have started. They're nearing towards the end of their first phase of their field training. So we've got a few more shifts on that, and then we'll start moving into the second phase, which will see them doing a little bit more of the work. It's been a little bit of a challenge, so we may be extending it a little bit time-wise, just because with everything going on with COVID-19, the activity level is way down to be able to do some of the things that we need to do to kind of move their training along. Last Wednesday, we conducted a tobacco compliance check on all the businesses. We did have 2 businesses that did not pass. We are using this as an opportunity to kind of teach and retrain them and get them to understand that despite everything going on, we still need to be diligent about making sure we're not selling to underage people. We've made the tough decision as a department to cancel this year's golf tournament. We don't feel that with everything going on with COVID-19, whether or not we're even allowed to do it, it would be right to go and seek the sponsorships that we normally have from our local businesses when so many have been impacted. And we'll be having a conversation about whether or not Night 2 Night's going to happen this year also, pretty much for the same reason. So the money's not as big of an issue. That one's going to be more dependent upon what happens as far as social distancing and what kind of what the guidelines are coming from the government. So other than that, just pushing through, getting those guys trained in and get them out on the road and on their own.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Questions? All right, thank you both. All right, then we have the consent agenda before us, the minutes of those 7 meetings on page 1, they're listed there. The vouchers on page 2 totaling $199,466.97. And just to note that at 6:30 we will be getting our remote housing study presentation. So then that is our consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Rinky to approve. Discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, that carried. All right, water treatment plant, the repiping project. Chuck, Ron,
I can start.
you can.
In 2015, we put the VOC plant online. The VOC stands for volatile organic compounds, if anybody needs to know that. In 2019, we found out we were getting a calcium magnesium buildup. Basically, hardness was stripping out, or when you aerate the water, it strips the carbon dioxide off the water and it allows the calcium magnesium to basically attach to anything, which it attached to the media. We treated that last year with the citric acid, basically broke it all up and started using it, and then with adding citric acid on a daily basis to try to keep that pH in line and keep that from carbonating up. And what we found out is our quality of water suffered. Basically, we're having pin flock going through the filter. And it was obvious. I had roughly at least 20 people let me know that the quality had suffered with that. In conferring with our engineering staff and the Department of Health, they suggested in the long run, the one simply being that the cost of the citric acid is about $10 per gallon, and we were going through about 15 gallons per day. So if you do the math, you'll come up, we're going to be pushing 60,000 gallons or $60,000 per year. So initially, before this project started, it was analyzed at putting the filter in front of the VOC tower. And that's really what we would be going back to here. So the VOC plant would be, we run through the iron and manganese filter prior to going through the VOC. As you can see, one of Chuck's counterparts had estimated a $12,800 study to get the plans and specs completed, and roughly they're estimating about a $115,000 project. So we would see about a 2-year payback on this. Cost, we would probably take it out of the water equipment replacement fund, which currently there's about $859,000 in that fund. So, Chuck, you have anything to add on to that? Or?
No, I think you covered it. Like you said, when you look at the cost, rather than spend the cost on the acid, it probably makes long-term sense to look at replumbing the facility, which is sort of the way we had originally wanted, or been proposed to do in the beginning.
I moved to authorize Bolton and Meng to draft plans and specs for the water treatment plan repiping project.
1 second. I'll second it.
Okay, all right. Motion by Rinky, seconded by Gilmore to authorize Bolton and Mink Inc. to draft plans and specs for the water treatment plan repiping project. Discussion?
One question, this is getting rid of adding additional chemicals.
Correct.
That's what I wanted to make note
So
of.
then there would be no chemicals added after that.
It's interesting, that short of payback on a project that costs
The other option
Yeah.
they did throw out is we could have added, or we could go to hydrochloric acid. Extremely dangerous. Chances are, we do have a metal tank, and that hydrochloric, in 5 years, we'd likely have holes in there,
Oh.
in the tank, and it would be rusted through, so.
Okay. Anything else?
So if you move the filters to a different location in the system, how do you keep the buildup from happening again?
That's the repiping. So the water will come in and go through just like we did years back, which that piping's existing, so that after it goes through the filter system, it'll be piped into the VOC tower, go through there, and at that point, repipe back into the distribution system.
Okay, but the filters in that other system don't clog up from this stuff? Is that? Okay,
No, right now, right now the water comes through the air stripping tower and then into the filters, so now it'll be going into the filters and then the VOC tower.
okay.
By rearranging how it goes, we'll eliminate the issue.
If any council member wants to go take a tour, I'd be glad to go through it sometime, if you're interested.
Okay, anything else? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None, carried. All right, then downtown alley improvements. Ron?
Okay, thank you. We have approximately, we're not 100% sure yet, but roughly $100,000 remaining in the 2019 street improvement project. It did come in that much under budget. And the Public Works Department, we looked at what should we do with that money. One, I guess we could leave it in the fund, or we could look at our next project that we had on the list, which would be the downtown alleys. Looking at the downtown alleys, they are in pretty rough shape. They were originally paved in 1990. Being alleys, they can't be overlaid. Otherwise, we would, by overlaying it, we'd be creating more water issues. And the conditions of them just wouldn't allow it at this point either. I guess at least we'd like to study it and see once where the cost would come in, but I think Chuck's estimate is roughly $120,000 there. Just to overlay or to lay them down, or if we reconstruct it and add some curb and gutter sections, it would probably run up to about $190,000. But at this point, we'd like to just get the design completed and a little finer estimate, and then we would bring it back for authorization.
Yeah, the goal would be to try to improve the drainage in the alleys. Right now, most of them are fairly flat, so you're trying to drain that water over the pavement, which can really cause issues and cause it to deteriorate quicker. So I think when we looked at it, the first thing we would do is get surveys so we could actually, to go through a design to look at the grades and everything on the alleys.
And the alleys are in rough shape, and they get a lot of traffic. Some of the alleys get a lot of traffic.
Traffic and a lot of heavy truck traffic. We do see a lot of delivery trucks going through them, so yes.
And given oil prices, now is probably the time to do it, so.
And I think the goal for this would be to, right now we have a contract with Voss for the 2019 project, would be to go through some design and then work with them and try to do it as a change order as part of that project.
I moved to authorize Bolton and Meng to draft plans and specs for the downtown alleys.
Second.
Motion by Rinky, seconded by LeBeau to authorize Bolton and Mink Inc. to draft plans and specs for the downtown alleys. Discussion?
All right,
Yes,
we got
Ron?
one thing to add to that. The assessment portion of that, I think in our ordinance it states that the assessments or alleys would be assessed to the benefiting properties. Back in 1990, that was not done, and it was recommended to follow that same procedure, that we would not assess the properties, that this would be a city cost.
So there'll be no hearings?
Correct.
Yep. To just get it done. Okay, anything else? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none, that carried. All right, and item C, camping, and this, another thing with the COVID-19, with campgrounds being shut down and people pulling their campers out of storage or else having to leave them in storage for additional costs. I had staff look and see if camping is allowed in the cities, to at least let people have the option to put them in their backyard and spend weekends in them or something, but, and I'm not sure what, if it's allowable or not there, the way it,
So, I mean, we've never prohibited people from parking campers in their yard.
Yep.
We don't, our ordinance doesn't really address
Yep.
camping in them. I think, the chief and I talked about it, I mean, I think even COVID notwithstanding, I mean, I don't think if a family wanted to spend a weekend in their camper in their yard, as long as they abided by reasonable noise restriction issues and campfire issues, I don't think the police department would ever take an issue with that. You know, and our prohibition has been about having campers on the street,
On the
which to
street,
address your issue, that wouldn't really be necessary. People should be able to park it in their yard. I think, you know, if, I just don't think it would be an issue as long, you know, as long as people abided by the other rules. I think it would be a non-issue. Our ordinance doesn't really say that you can camp in your yard, but I think if it's your own camper and it's your family and you're in your camper, I just can't see how anyone would make that into a thing. I would say that the police department would not have a problem with that, and I wouldn't want to take issue with anybody doing that. I mean, if they're in their own yard and in their own camper, I think it's fine.
yeah, I was just curious and wanted some clarification and guidance on that. 'Cause I know it's,
It's not, I mean, you know, our ordinance prohibits campgrounds and blah, 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 but this is a whole different deal. This is, you know, like dad throwing a pup tent out in the backyard and camping out with a couple kids. I mean, we've never tried to regulate anybody doing that. I'm sure people do it from time to time and always have. It's not a problem.
okay. Yes, sir.
I think the big thing that Bill and I had talked about was making sure that the residents knew, you know, this is for them on their property, in their camper, that if we start seeing a collection of campers show up on one person's property, then we're probably going to be stepping in saying, no, this is going too far. Now we're pushing more like a campground, you know, so this is kind of as an individualized thing for that specific property and that specific owner. So if it is done in that manner, as long as the other ordinance is followed, the police department has no issues with it.
Okay. Thank you.
Do they have to be in your driveway, or can they be in the street?
Not in the street.
Our ordinance prohibits people parking their campers in the street for more than 24 hours, I guess, I think is the exact language. It's in the materials. I read it before I came here, but now
I think, yeah, it was made so you could load and unload, and
Yeah,
if you didn't have a decent driveway to back into, or,
you can park it on the street for 24 hours, but nobody can be in it if they're going to do that. So somebody couldn't stay in the camper if somebody pulled it, you know, in front of their house.
All right, no action needed there, just wanted some clarification. Thank you for that. We got 10 minutes left here. And next is item D, our EDA, or Economic Development Authority, has been looking out for the best interests of some of our business, has come up with a plan here for COVID-19 emergency relief loan application. Sean or Len?
Well, we came up with the EDAP, and I think Linda was there too, was we wanted to come up with something so if businesses in the Painesville area we're running into problems for not being open, and they didn't, specifically if they couldn't get other funding other ways, because there's a lot of funding out there, but some of the businesses won't qualify. So this would be helping them, commercial businesses located in Painesville, that they could get up to a $20,000 loan for 5 years. And just to see if anybody needed help, we make it available. I don't know if you wanna, I mean, that
And
was.
Township, Painesville Township, also the Township Board was gonna vote upon it as well.
Right, but that, as of right now, it's just a city, right?
I think we put it as both, once we got the feedback from both.
Oh, great. But when are they meeting? I don't,
They meet tonight.
Perfect.
Give them a call. Get them online.
and if you look at the loan application, we try to keep it super simple.
Yep.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. I'll make the motion to approve the COVID-19 Emergency Relief Loan Program and application.
I'll second.
Motion by LeBeau, seconded by Gilmore to approve the COVID-19 Emergency Relief Loan Program and application. Discussion? Yep. Neil?
So this would be after they exhausted the local banks, the line of credit, the PPP?
Nope.
No?
Oh.
And why not?
And why not?
Correct.
Because we're the city of Painesville and we want to keep our businesses.
But you have all these other alternatives that,
We have EDAP money to support our businesses in Painesville.
but EDAP was designed to add employees or add on to existing building, business with additional employees. This has nothing to do with employees.
It just does if they go out of business and they have no employees.
Correct.
Technically, it's creation and retention as far as economic development.
But I
And I
prefer
think
to,
those other
I prefer them to exhaust the other lines of revenue than government.
I think one of the differences on this loan also is that this would be, repayment would not start for 6 months after the loan was awarded versus maybe a bank loan or something would start right away. This is trying to get them through COVID-19.
some of those other federal programs are already, have been exhausted, my understanding.
Well, there's a
is like-
brand new one that just got how many,
Is that,
they're just more funding for PPP.
depending on what kind of company you have is depending if you can get PPP or not. And as of today, that funding is almost gone already for the second lap. And depending on your bank and. depending on-
Nancy wants more and it'll never end.
Well, you go into a hair
We're not gonna
salon and
get
they
the
have no employees, and so they have no money and they can't get PPP.
Sean?
I was just gonna say, I moved this at the EDAP because I didn't think that it would affect me, but, my partners and I may be applying for this, so I'll be abstaining for this vote this time around.
So if you look at the SBA loans and so forth, a lot of companies do not qualify for them, depending on how many employees you have or if you have employees. So they cannot get the PPP loan.
Well, then there's many possibilities before I feel you should come to the government, but
Right, and I feel that this should be, EDAP is set up for Painesville businesses to help Painesville businesses. And if we can help some of our businesses stay down, and it kind of concerns me that you want to keep the downtown Painesville businesses, but you don't want to help them.
What do we have in the,
I didn't say I didn't want to help, but I think this should be last resort.
what do we have in the E EDAP?
Like 3,
In the revolving loan fund, we have about 390,000 out of the time.
390,000.
anyway, that's my extent to my argument.
Okay, we ready to vote? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yep.
We have one opposed, 3-4, one abstention, the motion does carry. Thank you for the discussion, and as long as we're talking about COVID-19, we have our Emergency Services Director, Mr. Fred, here with an update.
There's 55 cases currently in Stearns County. This weekend, Painesville Centricare started doing curbside testing, along with a lot of other Centricare facilities. So, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks, I think our numbers are going to go up We still have no confirmed cases of anyone having COVID-19 in the city of Painesville. And I honestly don't think we're gonna hear that from anyone in the healthcare industry, just for privacy, but, still monitoring the MDH website. They have this really cool dashboard now that updates, that was last updated 29 minutes ago, so still staying with that. A lot more stuff is coming from FEMA. There's just another letter sent out. I was just reading it before this. I haven't got through it all, but, about funding and stuff like that. So read through all that. Otherwise, that's about it on my end.
A question on the curbside testing, who can do that?
Who's doing that?
Can anybody go to get tested?
You have to have an appointment. They're still taking those high priority cases, the more,
Vulnerable?
yeah,
You have to have-
more vulnerable. Yeah, so there's a phone number you have to call over there and set up an appointment. And
For those with symptoms, if you're asymptomatic, you're probably not
yeah,
gonna get tested.
yep.
But basically, you just can't drive up there and
You
get.
just can't drive up. No, you have to have an appointment.
Do you know how long it takes for the results to come back with those?
I think results are 3-4 days still.
Okay.
I know they're still trying to ramp that up, but I haven't heard an update on the turnaround yet. Is it 2 to 3? 2 to 3. I was at K9 training today, so I haven't heard anything.
Okay, thanks for keeping us informed and keeping your ears and eyes tuned in to all that. I know it's difficult to follow and sometimes frustrating. When your neighbors aren't doing something or not doing something that you're either not doing or doing.
The fire department had a drive this last Saturday for face masks. Do you know how many?
I have not heard. I know we had one donation of 14 N95 that the county picked up today, but that was from, 2 weeks ago you guys picked that up? But I did not hear how the fire department did on their drive.
Can I ask a question related to COVID-19, but not necessarily emergency management?
That's not, yeah.
I'm just wondering if there's been any update on the Town and Country Days?
Tomorrow, the chamber meets.
Okay,
Or their committee or board or whatever meets tomorrow, yep.
okay.
Because every parade or thing I'm in right now, I got canceled out in the last week. I get cancellations almost every day.
Yeah, even events that are in July are being canceled. So it doesn't look good, but that's up to the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
What else it is?
Watch social media tomorrow. And call Neil. All right, it's, I see Steve
Got
must
way
be
too
ready
much to do
there.
than to be on
Steve,
that.
can you hear me? You need to turn your speaker on. You've got your speaker shut off right now.
You can unmute him. Can you, is that?
They received 385 masks.
Oh, awesome.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
385 or 89?
385, she just said.
Thank you.
That's unbelievable.
Our next item is the housing study update that the city has commissioned. We're trying to get linked up with Steve from the company here. And, oops. Let me get our technical difficulties taken care of. Steve from Community Partners Research, Inc. out of Faribault.
All right, Steve.
Oop, I hear something.
All right, can you try talking again?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Am I loud and clear?
Is that loud enough for everyone?
Can you hear Ron?
Do a test again.
Try it.
Hello? 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, looks like we're good.
It's a little garbled, but we'll muddle through here. Hey, go ahead.
Oh, great. Well, I'm Steve Graysett with Community Partners Research, and in order to update the housing study for the city. I first would like to thank everyone that assisted me. I called a lot of people sent me information, I surveyed people, everybody was very gracious, and that made my job a lot easier. I'm going to quick walk through, it's a 110-page study. I'm just going to quick walk through some of the highlights. I'll state the pages that I'm on, but I understand that your pages with your council packet are numbered. I'll read off the numbers that are actually on the study itself. We'll turn to page 1. There's several things to the study. There's a demographic section, there's a rental inventory, we've got 24 recommendations. I'm going to move pretty fast here, but on page 2, just to talk a little bit about the methodology that we use. We use the U.S. Census data, but that's getting old. But the census also does what's called an American Community Survey, which is an annual survey that some of you might have participated in. We buy information from Esri, a private company. We surveyed and interviewed quite a few people in town. We got information from the state demographer on page 3. We did a housing condition survey of 3 of your older neighborhoods in the city. There was 241 homes, and we surveyed your mobile home park. Probably turning to page 6, population data. From 2000 to 2019, we looked at 3 sources, Esri, the state demographer, and the U.S. Census, and they're estimating that from 2010 to 2019, you had 69 to 81 people. That's about 8 to 10 people per year. That's good news. You're adding people. We're getting into a lot of outstate communities that are actually decreasing quite substantially in population. We turn to page 11, population projections. Esri is projecting that they do projections based on 5 years, and their latest 5-year projection is 2019 to 2024. And during that time period, Esri is projecting that you'll gain 66 people, which is about 13 people per year. So again, some pretty good growth. The county is projected to gain 1,700 people per year, so strong growth in the county. Page 12, we looked at population. Now we're looking at households, actual households that need a housing unit. Esri is projecting, or is estimating, that from 2010 to 2019 there was a growth of 27 households. The state demographer is estimating a growth of 36 households. So that's 3 to 4 people, or 3 to 4 households per year. So again, some growth. Where that growth was on page 13, there were actually household losses in the younger ages. There was a gain of 18 households in that 35 to 54 age range, and the strongest growth was in that 55 to 74 year age range, which is the baby boomers. So we typically see that everywhere. Turning to average household size on page 15, household sizes are dropping in every city that we look at. But in 1990, Painesville's average household size was 2.46. That has dropped to 2.24 in 2019, but it did tick up from 2010 to 2019. So that tells us that there was some households with children that have moved to town. Household projections on page 16. Esri is estimating that, or projecting that there'll be a growth of 25 households from 2019 to 2024, which is an addition of about 5 households per year. Page 17, where that growth will be, a lot of growth will be in that 65 and older age ranges. Again, that's the baby boomers aging. So that's a growth of 23 households in the 65 and older over the next 5 years. And then there's growth projected in that 35 to 44 age range, which is the baby boomers' children. So these that's typically what we see. Baby boomers kids are where the growth is. Page 18, households by type. Of all the households in the city, approximately 12%, 148 households, are mom, dad, and kids under the age of 18, your typical family. So if you knock on 8 doors in Paynesville, you're going to find one, on average, that has mom, dad, and kids. Knock on 4 doors, you're going to find a married couple without kids, typically young seniors or empty nesters, maybe some younger couples. And you're also going to find 1 out of 4 that are single-person households. Page 19, just on the upper right-hand corner, about 33% of your households are rental households in the community. That's a bit higher than the state average, but pretty typical of what we see for a city your size. Page 21, income data. The latest data we had when we did this demographic research was 2017, and your median household income was about $48,600. Median income is the exact middle, about half or less, about half or more income. Household income is every household in the community. People living in subsidized housing, people living in senior housing, just everybody. Your family median income was about $56,600, a bit higher. Family incomes are 2 or more related people living in the same household. Typically, family income is higher because quite often there's 2 or more incomes in the family. So that's, you're about average of what we typically see in communities your size, maybe a bit higher actually. Turning page 28, building permit trends. We looked at building permits over the last 20 years, and I'm a little trouble reading this, but I'm going to put my glasses on. Single-family detached housing, about 90 or 92 single-family homes were built over the past 20 years. 14 single-family attached units were built, which is primarily twin homes, and there were 57 multifamily units built over the last 20 years. The latest one being in 2015 when Community Park Apartments was constructed. At page 31, we looked at residential sales activity. We went to the county and got the existing home sales. These are arm's length sales. We've eliminated foreclosures, bank sales, father to son, relative type sales. And in 2019, at least we had a partial year for 2019, there were 37 sales. The exact middle sale was $140,405. In 2018, with 53 sales, was $140,000. So you're in that $140,000 range for median sales price for existing home prices, which is quite high. We get into a lot of communities that are under $100,000. The higher the median sales price, the more new home construction that you probably will have. Page 33, we just broke down that 37 home sales in 2019 a little bit further. Only 3 of those sales were for under $100,000. 19 were in that $100,000 to $150,000 range. So almost 50 or over 50% there. And then 4 sales were for over $200,000. Page 34, we did a housing condition analysis, as I indicated, of 3 neighborhoods, and we've got the boundaries there. On page 35, you can see the sound homes 38%, those are homes that needed no work at all. Again, this was a windshield survey. 44% just needed minor repair, maybe a new roof or new siding, new windows. Major repair, 15% needed a lot of work. Windows, doors, you name it, they just need a lot of work. And 6 homes, 2.5%, looked like they were dilapidated and probably beyond repair. Page 36, we looked at your mobile home park and rated the mobile homes here. You can see the various percentages there that I won't go over. Page 37, we get into the rental housing inventory. We're estimating, to the best of our ability, that you have about 370 rental units in town. We surveyed 263 of those units. On page 38, you can see the breakdown of what we surveyed. We surveyed all the subsidized units, the tax credit unit or tax credit complex, all your senior services facilities, your nursing home, and we surveyed, I think, almost all of your market rate units or market rate complexes. The market rate summary, we surveyed 118 complexes. 108 units were in 8 multifamily buildings, and 10 units were in single-family homes. You can see there on page 38 that most of the units were 1 and 2 bedroom. Of those 118 units, we found only 1 vacancy. You basically have a 0% vacancy rate, or at least at the time that we did the study or survey. Page 39, rental rates. You can see the ranges of the various sizes of units. These ranges include utilities, so that's a gross rent. Page 40, tax rate, you've got 1 complex in town, Ridgeview, with 20 units. There were 2 vacancies at the time of the survey. And when we did the study in 2014, there were 6 vacancies. So it's less vacancies and back in the original study. Page 41, subsidized summary. We've got 4 subsidized projects with 59 units in Paynesville. 3 are general obligation or general occupancy, 47 units. 1 is a senior disabled complex with 12 units. Unit mix, almost all of those units are 1 and 2 bedroom, just a few 3 bedroom. We found 5 vacancies in those 4 complexes with an 8.5% vacancy rate. Finally, turn to page 43, senior housing with services. You've got 3 projects. Washburn is an assisted living project where they provide the full array of services, meals, medication management, bathing, laundry, and so forth. When we did the survey, there were 2 vacancies there. Stearns Place is more of an independent light services project with 29 units. There were no vacancies when we did the study. The nursing home, the care center, has 40 units or 40 beds. That's down from 54 beds when we did the study in 2014. All of those 40 beds were occupied when we did the study. Turning to the employment section, and I'll just touch on page 56, commuting patterns. At the bottom of the little chart there, 1,267 people are commuting in to Paynesville every day to work. 339 people live and work in Paynesville, probably most or some of you. And 706 people are commuting out every day to work somewhere else. And this could only be a couple miles all the way up to going to St. Cloud or Wilmer or wherever. So we always tell cities, to the extent you can, the 706 people that are commuting out every day, living in Paynesville, the 1,267 people commuting in every day, maybe you can get a small percentage of those people to move into the community. Most of them won't, but a small percentage might. Turning to page 62, the strengths for housing development, we've got a lot of them. You've got developers in the city, you've got good educational system, you've got many available lots, you've got an industrial park, you've got the commuters coming in that I just mentioned. On page 63, you've got excellent healthcare system, you've got population and household growth, so those are all good things. You have a few areas on 64 that I just won't go over right now. 66, some of the strategies we look at, I'll just state the first one, focus heavily on preservation of existing housing. I did a calculation, and you've got about $140 million of real estate, of housing real estate already on the ground. It already exists. So it's great to build new and encourage building new, but it's hard to duplicate $140 million worth of real estate. So to always keep that in mind, that preserving what's already out there is quite important. Then we get to the actual recommendations on page 68, it looks like. Our summary or our table of contents of recommendations. I'll probably turn right to page 72. We're recommending 86 to 98 housing units, a variety of types, and I'll just briefly go over those. We're recommending 24 to 28 market rate units. On page 73, we talked a little bit for the reasons for that. Now, market rate units have no income restrictions, no age restrictions, like Community Park are your latest market rate that were built. On page 74, the little chart there of the 24 to 28 units, we have a breakdown there of how our recommendation on 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units and the proposed rents. And those rents include utilities. Typically, when I show these rents, renters say, well, those are high. Builders and developers say, oh, those are low. It's tough to build them for that. So that's a dilemma we're in, affordability. It's our understanding that there's a project that's in the planning phase of about 24 units that may go a long way to addressing this recommendation. Page 75, we recommend 10 to 12 affordable market rate affordable units conversions. Upper floors of downtown buildings, maybe there's empty space, or maybe units that were one-time rental units that could brought back to life. 10 to 12 units are more affordable units. And we get to the tax credit on page 76. We're just recommending monitoring. You can probably use more tax credit units in the future, but they're very difficult for small cities to get. You're very fortunate to have the 20-unit project that you have now. Typically, they're going to larger cities. That's a more moderate rent project. Page 77, 10 to 12 subsidized units. These are deep subsidized units where people pay 30% of their income. Approximately 46% of your renters have stated that they're paying over 30% of their income for rent, so there appears to be a need for additional subsidized units. Probably turning to page 79, senior housing and services. We're recommending on page 80, 42 to 46 additional senior services units, and we state a lot of reasons for that recommendation. Most of your units and beds are fully occupied at this time. We've actually lost some beds from the nursing home, went from 54 beds to 40 beds. But again, it's our understanding, I actually talked to the developer that's looking at constructing approximately a 40-unit senior services project in Painesville, and we certainly think that would be a great project for the city. We're recommending to the extent possible that there's flexibility with those beds, with those units, that people can move in with relatively few needs and age in place and purchase more services as they need them. And also memory care appears to be a need some units that are designated for memory care. And again, it looks like there's a project that may address this need. Talk about downtown mixed use, building downtown. Small cities are, several small cities have constructed that type of project. The drugstore corner appears to be a potential site for something like that. Probably turn to page 84, 85 actually. Home ownership programs, again, promoting, working with various housing agencies on first-time home buyer assistance, down payment assistance, low interest loans, helping people purchase a home. And well, that's already going on. New housing construction on page 89. From 2014, from the last housing study to the present, 14 homes have been constructed, which is about 2 homes per year. But over the last, in 2018 and 2019, 5 homes were constructed each year. So that's great. That page 90. Up on top there it's more or less a goal than anything, 6 to 8 new owner-occupied homes, housing units per year, 1 to 2 higher medium-priced homes, 2 to 3 affordable homes, 1 home per year on an existing lot in town, and then 1 twin home, 2 units per year. So 68 per year. A lot availability, you've got 55 lots approximately available currently that can be built on tomorrow in 4 subdivisions in your community. We recommend that you have about a 2.5-year supply of lots available. So if you were to build 6 to 8 units a year, you need 15 to 20 lots. So you have ample supply of lots available. On page 91, we get into some recommendations on assisting with lot purchases and housing construction. I won't spend much time on those, but continue to have lots of competitively priced marketing, making the whole lot purchase, housing construction as user-friendly as possible. Page 93, I have a lot available for twin home, townhome development, and so forth. On page 93 there, we talk about your housing incentive program, which we think is just great. We recommended that in our previous study. Those type of programs are real helpful in more new construction to take place. We do recommend that you continually evaluate the program to see if it can be even enhanced or what can be done to better address the needs of people that are working at new construction. On page 94, we talk about twin home, townhome development. You've got a really great project in Alden Park that was built in the late 90s, early 2000s. I use as an example when I go to other cities. And you also have a twin home development taking place now. You have a high number of people over the age of 65 that are looking at low maintenance options. So our recommendation is at least 5 twin homes, 10 total units over the next 5 years. I'll return to housing rehabilitation, just real briefly. Page 97, 88% of your rental units are over 30 years old. So the continued need for rental rehabilitation, we'll talk about some of the funding sources that may be available. Page 98, we talk about owner-occupied rehabilitation programs. About 73% of your homes are over 30 years old. You've participated in the Small Cities Development Program over the years. We recommend you continue to do that, and any resources that are out there to promote owner-occupied rehab and preserve that existing housing that I talked about. 99, looks like we continue to recommend a rental housing inspection program. Again, we give the reasons why we recommend that, and I know that that's a discussion that we've had over time. Other housing initiatives, employer involvement in housing, we'll get into that, but employers are, and I know, I'm sure some of your employers in town, if they're not directly getting involved in housing projects, they're getting involved in city projects such as trails and parks and ball fields, that sort of thing. Continue to acquire and demolish dilapidated structures since the last study in 2014. There's been 10 structures that have been demolished. We continue to recommend removing those dilapidated structures. Page 103, talk about developing a plan from this study. We may look at these recommendations and say a lot of these are crazy, but maybe 3 or 4 make some sense. So to prioritize recommendations and work on 3 or 4, and you're doing great already. You've got a rental housing projects coming on board. You've got a senior services housing project coming on board, so you're already doing a lot of that. On page 104, that's kind of a catch-all of what I've already been talking about, so I won't get into that. Page 105, we talk about downtown redevelopment. The only reason we bring this up is when a household is looking at locating in a community, they first look at a job, if there's a job there, then they look at the schools, then they look at the downtown, the commercial area. They feel good about it, does it fit their needs? And I know that you've been doing some downtown redevelopment and have a downtown redevelopment plan that's in the works. So we're just putting our 2 cents worth in there on page 105 and 106. And then finally, we talk a little bit about mobile home park programs. Some cities, and maybe you're already doing this, but have done programs like if a mobile home is going to be sold or rented, then it has to be inspected and make sure it's up to code. Or that a home being brought into the community has to be 10 years old or younger, or 5 years old or younger, to make sure that there's quality mobile homes coming into the community. That's it. With that, I'll open it up if you have any questions.
Thank you, Steve. It was, unfortunate that we had to do this remotely. I think we may have lost a little bit in the quality here, but it's all here before us. The only question I really have is, do you know any good developers that you can send here to help us take care of some of this stuff?
Well, believe it or not, when a city has a study, that quite often gets around, put it on the internet and so forth, and developers tend to look at these studies and see where the needs are. With this whole virus, who knows, it could really stop construction, or you never know. There's a possibility that with maybe prices will be down, there'll be available inventory out there, maybe labor available. Maybe this would even promote some more construction. But it always surprises me how developers do tend to go where studies show a need.
Yeah, and that was one of the arguments that we raised in deciding to do the study, is to have something that we could pull off the shelf in case that there was someone like that. Any other questions for Steve, comments? Thank you very much. I did find it interesting. You did bring in the link between economic development and housing, and that's something that we've been discussing for several years here too. Is the tie-in or the need to have available housing for employees and business owners and others.
Yep, Steve, I'm Bill Spooner, city attorney, and I just have a question. Do you have an example of a program somewhere where people did do this? You mentioned a partnership with business to get business involved in the housing stuff. I was having a hard time envisioning how that would work, but I'm curious about it.
Yeah. Yeah, like with I'll just example the tax credit program, or tax credit project, you even, rate high enough to have enough points, you have to have business involvement, where business might buy the bonds for a tax credit project, that kind of thing. Getting directly involved in helping to fund an affordable housing project is one example. Some industries, employers have gotten involved in directly assisting employees, but that's pretty limited and it's pretty tough to do. So that third option is, as I mentioned, to just encourage involvement in overall city projects, and I'm sure they already are, to make Paynesville an excellent, great place to live. But yeah, I can show you, or I can send you examples of businesses have been involved in various tax credit projects or affordable subdivisions, that sort of thing.
Sure. Maybe I'll check with staff and see if I can get your email. I could just shoot you something and we could communicate that way.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks.
Anything else? Yes, not. Thank you very much, and don't go away. We'll be in contact with you.
Sounds great. Well, thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, then we're back up to page 22 on our agenda packet. Also, in desire, we can have a motion to approve the 2020 updated housing study.
I move to approve the 2020 updated housing study and have the same placed on the city's website.
I'll second.
Motion by Rinke, seconded by LeBeau to approve the 2020 updated housing study and have that posted on the city's website. Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None? That carried. All right, ordinance number 12, third series, chapter 2, now all the way back down, and this is right now for informational purposes and to get a sense if the council is interested in moving forward with the ordinance. Another one that policies and procedures has been spending valuable time on. I see no reason to hold back. Okay, then we'll just get that drafted and posted and brought back for formal approval. All right? And City Hall panic button, item D.
Kristen is coming in to give an update. She did the research on this.
Okay. There she is.
You want me to like sit by the mic? Or...
Sure, if you don't mind sitting next to Paul.
All right, and so I did look into a few companies. We had Marco do a quote from last year for more of a full security upgrade. And so right now, we're looking into just doing the panic buttons. And unfortunately, Marco didn't have an option for just the panic buttons. Their panic buttons were kind of integrated into their whole system. And so it was kind of, you either got to do all or nothing for them. So unfortunately, that was not an option anymore. And so I also looked into Floyd, which is the security system that the liquor store has. And they had just a panic button option. It's more of your traditional home security system with mountable kind of personal panic buttons that we could, usually you would keep on your person, but we can mount them into the counters and everything. And so that one, installation fee is $499 or $499, so right away $500, and it's $36.95 per month. And I also looked into CRS, which is more of a software-based panic button program. So we would have it on our computers, and we would also have physical buttons. And so that one, the startup, the installation fee, that would include 2 physical buttons, would be $538.42, and per month, that one would be $87.42. That price is with a few add-ons, and so if we wanted to, we could lower that monthly fee, but we probably wouldn't be able to lower it more than $50, really. And so that one is, it's kind of more of a question of whether you want to go with a more software base or a more traditional panic button, really.
Thoughts from, or recommendations or whatever? Sometimes, personally, software-based kind of scares me once in a while, but Neil?
Your Floyd system, how many buttons or?
We would be getting 2. So it would be 2 physical buttons that we'd probably place kind of at each end of the front counter. So probably around where Jody's desk is, or where we have the doorbell we used to have for Randy, kind of in that area by that second computer, and then probably to the other end of the counter, kind of near where we have the driver's license camera, kind of around there.
That CRS program, that software one, how many users can be on that?
With that, the $50 is for 10 users.
So everybody would be able to have one on their laptop. So if I seen you in distress, I can hit a button on my laptop and it goes to...
It would go to, we can set it up to go where we want it to. So if we wanted to go to dispatch, or if we wanted to go
Does it
to...
go to a call center first and then go to dispatch?
That one, we kind of program directly where it goes. Also with CRS, it's got a high alert and a low alert. So you do actually have 2 different alert options. So if you wanted to go to like a low alert, maybe just a message like to higher management or something, or local, like just send a message to Stephanie's if she's back there to alert, if police is back there, have them come up front maybe. Or you can do the high alert, which would be directly to dispatch, and you would be talking to your 911 operator.
And that one, you have to talk to them, or they are...
You can type, and so...
Well...
And it would also be, once you with the CRS, you can program a lot. So you can program, this is the message that gets sent as soon as you hit the button, and then you can also program it to start a dialogue. So you can be chatting or messaging with updates on the situation with the 911 dispatcher.
Or you can just hit the button and they're gonna...
Yep, or you can just hit the button and it'll have a pre-programmed message saying, basically like, this is our location, this is like the time, please send help.
And that one comes with 2 panic buttons.
Yep, and that one, it is an option to buy additional ones, but it would come with 2 hardware ones, so 2 physical buttons.
Because I like the CRS basically because anybody can hit the button without anybody having to be in that location. If you put the panic buttons up on the front counter, you're gonna get into more problems when they see you doing something, whereas if somebody in the back hits it, I don't know, I'd ask Paul.
I would agree with you. My concern with just having 2 buttons up front is that's great, but it's predicated on somebody being by that button.
Yeah, and if you're moving back like you're going to in an argument, right?
So having the ability to do it from, one's cubicle is certainly an advantage.
Interesting.
A question about the Floyd, for that $36.95 a month, how does that system work? Like when you hit the button, where does that go? Where does that message go, or that alarm?
That one, it's kind of along the lines of that traditional home security system. So it would go to, So it would be a Honeywell system, so it would go to Floyd, that security alert would go to Floyd, and they would assess what kind of emergency it is. And so then they would kind of take it from there. And so again, kind of along the lines of that more traditional one where it would just kind of give your location, tell you what company it's with. And so it would go directly to Floyd and they would handle the situation after that.
And CRS, what's the difference between our 50 or 87 a month?
The additional 50 is for the plan for 10 users. The 87 is that 10 user plan plus additional E911, which is something that unfortunately the website didn't have a great description of it on there, but from further research that I looked into, it's basically it gives more geolocation, like, you know, once you hit that button, it sends your location directly, where otherwise you kind of have to tell them where you are.
A few questions. Why did we decide against the full system that Marco quoted?
Or do you
I
want
can
to?
speak to that.
Yeah.
It's about $60,000.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot.
The panic button itself was $1,200, but it was tied in with door keys, like a key fob door key system, as well as a camera system, which was about $60,000.
That's a good reason. And then and so you said with CRS we can get additional buttons.
We can.
Is that an additional monthly cost as well?
It is not an additional monthly cost, but it is a one-time cost of about just under $150 per button.
Okay. So if we wanted to get some for in here at these tables, we could do that.
Yeah, and it would just be that one-time cost.
Yeah, you scare me sometimes, Len.
We may have to maintain our social distancing.
Can we do the same with Floyd, get additional buttons, or is that just the two?
We should be able to, but the quote they gave me was for 2, and so I don't know exactly if it'll be additional money, and if so, how much.
The Floyd ones were like necklaces, weren't they, and stuff?
It's what it would be personal panic buttons, so the ones that are designed to either go on a lanyard or on your keychain, but they would be mountable options. And so we could place them where we want them, or depending on how many you have, you could give one to each person, but I'm not sure how effective that would be cost-wise.
And then the last question I have is, do you or any of the other 2 City Hall employees here have an opinion on which one, a recommendation?
I guess for me, I like the idea of CRS, the software one, because it is on our computer. It is something where if, you know, we have an angry customer up front, someone who is at their desk can, you know, hit the button and actually type in what's going on and actually kind of give more description on the situation. And then CRS is also one where it does have the 2 types of alert that I mentioned earlier. You can have a high alert or a low alert. And so if it's maybe just a angry customer and we know there's a police officer back there, we can possibly use that to just be like, send a quiet message back there, like being, hey, can you come up, instead of picking up the phone and trying to kind of whisper in there. I don't know if the other 2 employees really have.
You know, Krista, I didn't even think to ask you this the other day when we were talking about it. It sounds like this is all more internet-based, and we all know we lose internet up here on occasion. Is there an option if internet's down, do the panic buttons or anything still work?
I haven't actually looked into that with the CRS, but it would be something I'd have to ask, but I would think that there might be some way around that.
Okay.
I like the option of not having to go to the counter to push a button. Right now, we push our buttons to let people in the service door from the lobby, from our desk. Most of the time, right or wrong, I'm the one that ends up walking back to the police station to say, can we have somebody come up and, you know, just kind of linger by the copy machine? Can we have you do a walkthrough? Usually I quickly go back to my chair and then he or she would just come up like 30 seconds later, so it doesn't look like I just went and got them. But I like the idea of not having to leave the situation, because you're leaving your teammate, so that you can do it from your desk. Nobody's gonna know the wiser that you're doing it. Belinda brought up a good point. Periodically, we do lose internet service, but,
Then we're back to the way we were.
right now we have nothing, so something is better than nothing. And we thought the sooner the better, just because we don't know what state of mind people are gonna be in when we open our doors, because there's gonna be probably a lot of people, and waves could be, and people that are expired, and so we wanna be a little bit prepared for,
You may only have a couple people in here at a time, who knows?
we don't know what the governor will say, but,
Exactly.
you know.
Do you want a motion tonight to recommend, or?
Well, the couple different ways to do it, we could decide, on a dollar amount, or, the city administrator does have spending, authority, if the council is comfortable with one of the two systems to, pre-authorize the city administrators to work, to lay out just how many stations, would be needed and go that way.
I like the CRS and the,
No, and the CRS would be a very good one, I believe. Because we could also have it on the city admin's laptop, which would be in this area, so Sean got crazy or something. We'd have it here, because that laptop's always here, correct?
Yep.
Or
This one is
so-called
always
city
here.
admin laptop is here.
Yeah.
So we'd have that.
Yep.
So I'd take a motion to search, go with the CRS and ask the questions about the internet and the panic buttons.
I mean, now's the time, if you wanna go with 4 buttons, go with 4 instead of coming back in a year. Now would be your cheapest when they're gonna do the installation. If you want 4 buttons, get 4, and
What?
Good.
for the buttons.
Let Len finish his motion.
I thought it
I'd
was,
like the city administrators to work on the CRS portion of it, do some figuring out how many panic buttons and or systems we need, and make sure we have something back here. Yeah,
And to go ahead with make a decision and do the
Right.
install.
yes,
Okay.
and purchase it.
Yep.
Did I hear you say you also wanted to look into like the cell backup feature or something, or am I reading too much?
No, look at the internet,
Okay.
answer that question for the internet, figure that out, how many systems, and get something back here also.
Yep.
Okay, I'll second that.
And go with their,
And go ahead and order it.
And go ahead and order it. Yep. Order, install, yep. It's basically, we're going with the CRS system at the discretion, and the buttons and where they're installed on the computers is up to the staff, so we're not spending a whole bunch of time talking about $100 or whatever here.
And
You got that? Okay, and it's a motion by Gilmore, second by Ricky, and, get the questions answered about what happens if the internet's down and that, okay?
Yeah, and I think, like Sean mentioned, the cell phone backup, I think, can we include that when you're researching this? If, like, the internet is down, is there an option for, like, the city administrator's cell phone to have something through the data?
I do believe I did see something where it is mentioned where, you kind of, how it is, you kind of log in to it, and so there is a mobile option to log in there, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll look into it a bit more as well and confirm that, but I do believe there is an option on your cell phone.
Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say, when you look into it, can you check and see like on those low settings, if there's a way if you're sending those messages, to even just send that message directly to whatever officer's working. Like it can be sent by a text message, that sort of thing, because then it's real easy. It's just a matter of putting that message in there and sending it out to us, and we get it, and we're not playing like tag or something like that.
Okay, well, basically, the motion is, we've been talking about this for a long time, let's get it done.
Yep.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Carried. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you much. Okay, the only thing left here, informational, we have the May and June meeting schedules, the liquor store report, the police department report, the consumer confidence report, which the name always kind of blows me away, but the water quality report, April West Central Sanitation garbage rates, and the notice there that all those other reports are on the city's website, as will the housing study be, right? That's it, we're adjourned. Thank you all.